Hi, this is Chris Dames here, presenting this webinar for Next Gen Planners and in conjunction with Cervello, which is my business, about working in particular with businesses. There's a few things I want to cover today. Firstly, our experience working with businesses, and when I say businesses, I don't mean the direct business itself. I want to talk about our experience. I want to talk about how it was today versus how we think it's going to be tomorrow. I want to talk about why not everybody is your corporate client. So we believe that, like in the private client world, not everybody is suitable to receive your advice. Corporate entities are pretty similar in that regard. I want to talk to you and tell you a story about competition and how our view of how we can help corporates was driven by one experience with an employer. I want to talk about the three R's because the three R's are the really important element in terms of helping any employer in a big way. And then I want to talk about why employee benefits in reality are only part of the puzzle. The key factor when helping employers is to understand that what you can deliver isn't the full picture. When it comes to helping them with the three R's, employee benefits is one part and there are important others. But I also want to talk about why employee benefits and helping companies with those benefits are really important. And I want to talk about the one simple thing every employer should do. Then I'm going to talk about employer challenges because there's two. One that's often taken into account and one that's often focused on, but one that's ignored. And I'd argue the one that's ignored is often worse. And then I will talk about the root causes of those challenges. Then I want to talk a little bit about well-being and in particular financial well-being and the importance of empowering people with the right tools to improve their financial well-being. And then I'll talk a little bit about how at Cervello we're trying to solve the problem. And then I'll give you some contact details on how you get in touch. So, first thing is a little bit about us. We launched in 2009. We're directly authorised and independent, and we're quite unique as a financial planning business in that not all of our work is private client work. About half of our work is private client, but we do have a niche in helping clients with automatic enrolment, but also that's now developed into other corporate help. Our largest client employer is 2,000, our smallest employer is 10. We sit firmly in the mid-range. We don't compete with employee benefit consultants. At the top end, we are firmly committed on our corporate side to help medium-sized business. And effectively, we do marketing and we do a lot of marketing online, but we don't pay for advertising. We don't do any of the traditional ways that you potentially get business. We've stopped doing vouchers, we've stopped doing unbiased. Our growth is all through referrals, recruiting the right people and getting good introductions. So let's talk a little bit about automatic enrolment, okay, and the story and the journey between 2012 and 2018. So 2012 is when the largest employers in the land had to comply. They all did quite successfully, and then between 2012 and 2018, you had a situation where gradually smaller employers had to comply over time. Now, we're now at a point that the last employers who have to comply by February 2018. That's the flashpoint if you're an existing business. In actual fact, if you're a new employer business from October, you've got to comply straight away. So February 2018 is all existing employers, and as of October 2017, AE is an immediate duty for all employers. So you employ one and you employ that person in November, you've got to provide them with a pension scheme and you've got to make sure that they know what their rights and your obligations are immediately. The regulator, interestingly, is using its enforcement powers more and more often. We get sent a copy of the quarterly report, and what we're seeing is a lot more enforcement and compliance. And I will talk to you a little bit about how we're seeing that. Bear in mind that contribution rates, even though they're low right now, are increasing both in 2018 and in 2019. Automatic enrolment, even though it's seen as old news, will continue to change and will continue to impact businesses. There are still commercial opportunities in this space we're finding, but we're finding that commercial opportunity has changed. The commercial opportunities are really different to before. And I will talk to you about how we see that. So enforcement's an interesting one. Enforcement, they've just been under 60,000 enforcement actions. 14,500 businesses have had fixed penalties. 2,517 are getting those ongoing daily penalties, and they can range from starting at £50 all the way up to thousands of pounds a day, depending on the size of the business. And 237 employers have challenged the pension regulator at tribunal. Now, the reality is that out of all of those challenges, there's only been one successful appeal. So that says that whilst the pension regulator is happy to work with employers and the professionals they work with, because I know that we've done a lot of work with the pension regulator about helping businesses comply even if they're past their staging date, employers who want to try and fight this stuff and want to try and fight it and appeal against it aren't particularly successful at tribunal. I mean, one successful appeal in 237, those stats are quite difficult. So what are the opportunities now compared to then in the automatic enrolment space? So I think the automatic enrolment space used to be about compliance today, and now it's about ongoing compliance. So as regulation changes, it's not about passing your staging date anymore because everybody's passed their staging date. But as regulation changes, that will have an impact on all employers, and how do they make sure that they keep an eye on that. It's far less about the initial work and more about maintenance. You know, most employers should have a pension scheme in place and therefore don't need to take those big jumps they had to up until staging date, but they need to make sure that it's right on an ongoing basis. It's less about setting up systems and it's more about testing the efficiency of systems. So the reality is, odds are that every single employer in the land will have systems to manage auto-enrolment. Whether they've got the best setup is questionable on a lot of occasions. And I know that when we get to see employers that we haven't set them up originally but take over their work, we find that we can save hours just through making sure we streamline payroll, pensions and regulation. It used to be about minimums, and now employers have to start planning for those increases because they're coming next year and the year after. And it used to be about owning compliance, and now, as we're finding for the employers that we look after, for many of them, even though it used to be about owning compliance, they're now looking at this as a retention tool for their business, and we'll talk a little bit about that. However, that's only for the right businesses. There's thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of businesses out there who see automatic enrolment as another tax. They just want to comply. The businesses we tend to work with tend to understand the power of using automatic enrolment and ancillary benefits as a tool for their business to retain, reward and recruit good people, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So who's the right corporate client? So we believe the right corporate client is worried about the 3 R's, and I'll talk about the 3 R's later, but they are recruit the right people, retain the right people and reward the right people. So you've got to have a corporate client. We believe the most profitable and the best corporate clients to work for are the ones that just love their staff, the ones that want to recruit, reward and retain. As I say, in a lot of businesses, that's not appropriate because your workforce may be quite transient, or it may be a case that the sustainability of the workforce isn't as important to that particular employer. But certainly we work with businesses. To give you an example, we have a restaurant chain we work with who are in a position where they've got a number of employees in their restaurants that tend to be more transient, but certainly they've got 100 people in the head office that they're the backbone of the business, and without them, the business wouldn't thrive as much as it did. So certainly they're looking to reward, retain and recruit in the support area. For the actual restaurant staff, they've got a different perspective on those employees. However, I think for me, the biggest learn when it came to this sort of stuff is when we picked up a corporate client in Cambridge. Now, this corporate client had their staging date coming up. They needed to comply with automatic enrolment. But when we saw the MD of the particular business, they said, well, look, to be honest, Chris, auto enrolment is a challenge, but it's not my biggest problem. And I was curious, so I said, okay, if that's not your biggest problem, what is? They said, well, look, we're in a position where we're in R&D and technology. We're based in Cambridge, we're based in an innovation hub in Cambridge, and all of my employees are really smart researchers. And I've got massive competition. And the competition is that any of my employees can go next door and get a similar sort of job. Because we're in an innovation centre, they can walk next door and get a job that's pretty similar to what they've got at the minute. They could move into London. They could move into London and get a job with similar, if not better, salaries. And I've got that competition too. But also, there's international demand for the employees that I've got. So I need to work out. Pensions is fine, complying with automatic enrolment is fine, but it's not enough because I need to look at the bigger challenges that I've got, and those are the 3 R's. Okay, so for this particular business, how do I recruit? The business had individuals coming out of Cambridge, coming out of the university that they wanted to recruit, but there was massive competition. And how do they differentiate themselves as a business to ensure that they can continue to compete? How do we make sure that loyal people and good people stay? Because that was really important to the business. I don't want people. I don't want turnover. I want good people to stay and know that they can be rewarded. And how do I keep people? How do I look at making sure that the people we recruit and reward stay for the longer term and help me build the value of the business? Actually, the conversation was a lot wider than just employee benefits. It was about culture. It was about pay. It was about satisfaction. It was about engagement. And really interestingly, engagement is something that's often ignored in businesses, and I'll talk to you about that in a moment. And it was about benefits. But to pretend that employee benefits alone help you recruit, reward, and retain the best people is a fallacy because we all know that it's part of the mix, but not the entire mix. And when we go in and speak to our employer clients, whilst we're focusing on the benefits area, as part of our job as professionals, it would be mad to ignore some of the other challenges they face. So, are they pay competitive? Have they got the right culture? Is there staff satisfaction? Have they got the right benefits in place that we can help with? But the biggest gap at the minute, and what we're finding with a lot of employers in terms of what they ignore, is are their teams engaged? Really interesting. There was a study recently called the Good Work Study. It was released by government in July this year, July 2017, and it talks about modern working practices and what good work looks like compared to bad work. And really interestingly, and it went out and it did loads of surveys, it did loads of research with employees and employers, and one of the biggest factors it found a satisfied workforce was engagement. So, was the team of the business engaged in running the business? Could individuals input ideas? Could they say what they felt was right and wrong and make positive change to drive the business forward? And actually, engagement in a lot of businesses is often ignored as a really good recruitment, reward, and retention tool. However, in terms of benefits, there's an entire universe of benefits you can have. You can put in life cover, private medical cover, income protection, share schemes, childcare vouchers, car allowance, discounted gym membership, travel loans. There's a bunch of stuff that can potentially work. However, they're all some of the more typical stuff. It's really interesting because when we do work with businesses, what we try and do is understand a bit more about the makeup of that particular business. Because if you've got a bunch of 23-year-olds in a tech firm, life cover isn't going to be the biggest incentive for them in terms of staying with that particular business. What might work is something like discounted gym membership, and what we've used in the past with employers is something like Perkbox, which provides discounts on restaurants, clothes, a bunch of different goods and services that might reward, retain, and recruit the right people in a younger business. But also, there's a bunch of benefits that can have that quite unconventional. You know, some employers provide more paid time off, so they'll turn around to employees and go, "We'll increase your annual leave as an employee benefit." There's certain employers, interestingly, that advocate the use of unlimited paid time off. Now, I don't know whether I'd do that in my business, and I don't know whether many of my employer clients would do it. There's an argument to say that the trust provided with turning around and saying you can have as much time off as you want is rewarded in kind. I'm not convinced by that argument, but it's an interesting one. Freedom and flexibility. So in our busy lives, especially if you've got kids, having the flexibility to do things in your own time, in your own way, and with the empowerment of technology is increasingly important. An interesting one that I heard of the other day, and we haven't used with any of our clients yet, but potentially we may do in the future, is telemedicine. So the opportunity for an individual to speak to a GP at any time at their convenience instead of waiting to book an appointment. And you know, I'm looking at this more and more at the minute, and when I look at it, it seems like a win-win because instead of an employee feeling rough for a week and then going to see the GP but not having to find the time, potentially all they do is simply Skype the GP, get the information they need, get better quicker. So it's a win for the employee and a win for the employer. Payday loan. So again, not right for all business, but if you could free the employee from using somebody like Wonga or one of its ilk and paying over the odds for a payday loan, could the employer provide that sort of incentive and reduce the financial worry of that individual? Again, something we've not used with our employers at this point in time, but something that's worth considering. And it fits into what I'm going to be talking about in a moment about how important it is for individuals to have financial well-being in the workplace. Fundamentally, all of these benefits, including the conventional and the unconventional, boil down to one thing. They all focus on well-being, so they all focus on making sure that people are better off individually and therefore more productive professionally. Because it's interesting, I think if you take away the reward retain argument, the other argument for making sure you've got really good quality well-being services in place as an employer is people go off sick less because you look after people's health and well-being and they're more productive and more happy and therefore less absent. However, what's often ignored is a bigger challenge. It's the people who turn up for work but aren't as productive. Now, and that could be because they're worried, because they're stressed, because they're sick. And that's called presenteeism. There's some research that's came out recently that said that actually presenteeism is a growing and greater challenge than absenteeism. Because absenteeism you can track. You know, you can turn around and go, "Where's Steve?" And if he's not there, you can track his absenteeism. It's less common that people ask what's wrong. So if Steve is less productive, how do you keep track of that? I'd suggest that actually, whilst absenteeism is more visible, because if Steve's not there, he's not there, presenteeism is actually more pernicious. And there was some interesting research recently from the Financial Times that talks about the impact of both presenteeism and absenteeism. And it said if you earn less than £10,000 a year, it's likely that you lose 32 days a year in presenteeism and absenteeism. It goes up in the brackets between 10,000 and 20,000. So individuals who earn between that amount, their employers lose them for 36 working days in the year due to presenteeism and absenteeism. It goes down when you get to the 20s to 30s to 31 days. It stays the same actually when it goes to 30 to 40,000. Goes down slightly when you get to 40 to 50, and goes down significantly when you get to individuals who are earning between 70 to 80, especially 150,000 plus. But if you look at that, for each individual, you're losing a month a year because of them not being at work due to being sick, but also being at work unwell, stressed, and not as productive as they could be. Really interesting research. And what causes that lack of well-being? Well, there was a recent survey from PwC that talked about this, and it said that there was a bunch of concerns. It was partially about the job, it was partially about health concerns, it was about relationships, there was other reasons as well. But 46% of people said financial or money matters caused them the most stress. And interestingly, it really impacted on their productivity. So, for the 46% of people where finances are a challenge, 48% of them have admitted to being openly distracted at work. 50% of those individuals spend 3 hours or more at work dealing with personal finance issues. 20% spend 5 hours or more at work dealing with these issues. And 30% openly admit that their productivity has been impacted by financial worries. Now, I don't know about you, but these are American statistics from PwC. I'm not overly convinced they'd be massively different in the UK. So think about the amount of productivity lost and the amount of worry, stress, and the impact on individuals because employers aren't focused enough on well-being, and particularly, interestingly, financial well-being. So I think that the future looks different to the past. I think that whereas employers looked at benefits as a must-do when it came to automatic enrolment and pensions, I think there's a huge opportunity to financial planners to help corporates do one thing: help recruit, retain, and reward the right people. And I think there needs to be a focus to do that on well-being. I think you need to love your staff in order to make sure that they stay. And I think there's four main areas that you've got to do that. Firstly, help them with health. Secondly, help them with relationships. Thirdly, help them with work. But most importantly, help them manage their money in a better way. Because as you can see by the PwC report, for a lot of people, managing their financial affairs is one of the biggest issues. So we believe that helping medium-sized businesses ensure that they can manage their finances more effectively is the future. And we think that looks like empowering individuals with the tools to manage their pensions, investments, mortgage loans, but most importantly, goals, hopes and aspirations in one place. And we believe that there's enough of an argument to say that employers should fund that, because the benefits that employer will get in productivity will completely outweigh the cost of the helping the employees with their financial affairs. To give you an example of some of the things we're looking at now, and actually we're launching pretty soon, is we're looking at apps that allow you to aggregate your bank accounts, get all the information from it, and make sure that it's delivered in a way that you understand where your money's going. But a hub where you can put all of your loans, all of your mortgages, all your investments, all your savings, and all of your pensions, workplace or not, in one place, so that people have got an understanding of that. Now, as a lot of you know, those apps are available to do today. In our heads, we think that the workplace, because of the productivity benefits that the employer would get, would be an awesome place to deliver to individuals. So that's where our focus is. So the benefits are for both sides. For employers, to empower them with the tools to manage their money more effectively, they get more productive staff, because there's less worry, there's less presenteeism, people turning up at work and spending 3 hours trying to sort their financial affairs out. There's less absenteeism because people have got the tools to empower them to manage their money more effectively. You've got happier employees because there's less stress and less worry, and you've got more retention and engagement of your workforce. For the individuals, having tools like this is a bit of a no-brainer. I mean, there's less money worries, there's better control. The money, if you've got all your financial affairs in one place, it's easier to manage. There's more engagement with your money, and we're looking at making sure that there's goals and tools within the platform that our employers are using to do this, to make sure that individuals are engaged and overall they're happier and less stressed. So let's do a quick recap. We think opportunities in the AE compliance space remain, but they're different. They're all about helping employers on an ongoing basis. However, it's important if you're delivering a consultancy style solution to focus on the right employers to help. And interestingly, our work has changed. So a lot of the work we do now is help employers, not with compliance, but with the 3 R's: reward, retain, recruit. Employers want a wider conversation, and in our experience, they want somebody who's pragmatic enough to understand that actually helping them reward, recruit, retain isn't only about employee benefits, it's about a wider picture. And even though we may not be able to deliver on that wider picture, we need to appreciate that we need to have the wherewithal to have that conversation. Presenteeism is an issue that's ignored when comparison to absenteeism, but actually it's potentially a bigger hidden challenge and more of an issue than absenteeism because it's less visible. The reality is that there's millions and millions and millions of pounds in the UK economy that's lost because of stress. And as you've seen from the PwC research and from the FT research, stress is a huge factor and has a huge impact in terms of how people perform at work. That's why well-being has got to be the focus, both for the benefit of the employers and for the employees. And we believe supporting people with the right employer-funded tools will help. It needs to be about helping the employer understand that a happier, more motivated workforce actually benefits the employer at the long term. Now, not all employers will get that, but the ones that do will win in the end. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that's an insight into how we work with corporates and how we help corporates with their financial planning needs. You can get in touch with us by emailing me. I'm on chris@cervellofp.co.uk. You can get in touch with me on Twitter @ChrisDames or follow our Twitter account @CervelloFP. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, email me, tweet me, ask me any questions you want. It would be great for us to have a conversation about how we can help more employers help their employees. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. I look forward to hearing from you soon.
Hi, thanks for watching that Cervello Money Talks video. For more videos, click here, and to subscribe to our channel, click there.